We're starting the next Get Practical with session a bit early, and I'm sure Mika Huhtamäki from Vastuu Group appreciates the extra time. So as you know, Mika was in an earlier session. He's from Vastuu Group, which represents the Finnish SME perspective on data intermediation. Vastuu Group has long roots in data sharing activities in Finland, and it's one of the founding members of My Data Global. With OASC, the main focus of our cooperation has been in the development of MIM4. Vastuu Group is also an active member in the International Data Spaces Association and has been a member of the Gaia X Association from day one. Mika, from the country that I miss since I'm now in Brussels, there's no snow. It's +6, which makes it practically summer. So take it away and Get Practical with Vastuu Group.
All right, thank you. I will start by sharing the screen. Let me see how it goes. Okay. Now,
yep,
you can see, I hope.
Yes, maybe full screen.
Yeah, I will put
or presenters mode, but we can see it.
Sorry, this Zoom is making its own tricks. I'll try to. Okay, so if you can see it, that's enough for me. I cannot see the chat right now, so some issues with that, but I put this to the reading view. Okay, so happy to be here. My name is Mika Huhtamäki. I'm the Deputy CEO of Vastuu Group, based in Finland, and I've been working for Vastuu Group and the preliminary companies for 14 years. So me and Lars Alpak, I guess that we can count ourselves as the founding members. Vastuu Group initially was a consultancy company, but we have been heavily involved into the processes of turning legal obligations into digital services to automate certain bureaucratic tasks and to enable better collaboration between government and companies, and to make life easier to basically make the data flow and enable the data flow. And that has been the foundation of the company. We have about 120 employees, including externals, and about 20 million euros turnover right now. And we covered the Nordic area quite well. And we have been actively collaborating in Europe for the last, I would say, 3 years, and actively participating into different research projects with the universities and funding a couple of research projects. And that is something that we continue. So we basically believe on work in ecosystems and in a collaboration, because the data itself, it's just enabling factor for better services. This is showing a little bit background of the company. So we have to remember that in the Nordic region, in Finland, we have about 5 million people. And if we take the other countries, we are speaking about 20 million people or something like that. So we only have, we in Finland region and the Nordic region, we have 560,000 employees or people who are working in the field in our databases. We know their social identities, we know their educational background, and we know the work sites they're working on, stuff like that. We collect that information related to the Finnish laws related to security and taxation and construction agreements and supply chains. So that is a quite huge number in this region, even though in the European scale, the number is not that big, but we have more personal data than in some of the banks or other organizations in this region. We have about 50,000 work sites in our databases. That means that we know the supply chains, we know the people who are visiting the site, we know the companies, we know the fees they are paying, we know when they have paid, we know the agreements and stuff like that, and we provide that information to the Finnish tax authority. And the companies who are there are mostly in the European Union, but all the social identities and companies, what we are storing in our databases, we have more than 120 nationalities covered. Then more than 70,000 of the companies have given us the right to check the taxation and pension insurance information combined with other secure information that is related to the Finnish buyer's obligation law. And we have completely automated that process, and we deliver more than 10 million reports a year. So basically more than 10 million purchase decisions are made based on our information, and both public and private sector, they are using that to make the decisions. And then out of the 560,000 people, we have 360,000 active Valtti cards, meaning that we have a plastic card with a chip combined into the data that we are storing behind the scenes. And that information is used by more than 100 ecosystem partners. So we have different partners. Some of them are companies organizing the access management to the working site. Some of them are purchasing system providers. Some of them are financing system or other management system related to the supply chains or construction or industrial areas. So this has been the foundation of our business, and that has been the core reason why we have been building the additional layers related to the personal data, my data, and industrial data, and smart cities as well. So we pretty well know the GDPR, and we know well the collaboration with the public. We are on a weekly basis meeting different units and ministries and governmental representatives related to our data or the laws in the field, and also as well dealing with the Estonian government related to the tax authority and Poland and so on. So public-private collaboration is a persistent part of our business. So we are ecosystem orchestrator, meaning that we provide data for many businesses that actually they run their business. They are bigger businesses than we are in some cases. So a lot of those partners, they are way bigger than we are. And the 100,000 customers we have, we cover the smallest companies are like one-man shows, and the biggest ones are listed multinational companies, which are global. And in between those companies, there are these service providers who are acting in the ecosystem, and basically we are the orchestrator here. And that means that we are also helping the companies to make the interpretation of the law related to these areas easier. And that has been a fundamental part to build the data sharing ecosystem we are heading towards together with Ask. So this is one of the basic services we have in place. So we are speaking about reliable partner, luotettava kumppani. At the end, we are speaking about report that is also machine readable, that companies and systems can automatically get in from our data vaults, data servers. And with that, they can make automated decisions and follow-ups based on their subcontractors. And if something goes wrong, they know it automatically and they react accordingly. And also the Finnish authorities are checking these reports to check that the buyers are following the law, and then the subcontractors are paying taxes and pension insurances and other obligations, taking care of other obligations towards the state. So this is the core bare bones service we are having. Then we are heading a little bit more advanced ones that we are generating together with the Finnish Ministry of Labor and Work. Here, the idea is that with the my data and with all the data what we have, we can actually use the existing data to let people employ better, to find better and easier jobs. And we do that by providing a digital CV that the person can manage. They can decide that what information they collect into it, and they can decide to whom they share it. But it means that they have a one single data entity that they are in charge of, and they can decide to share the same data to different parties. And this is something that we have been building for a couple of years. And right now it is at the pilot phase with real people, with real companies, with a real ecosystem where we are testing it with the employees from the construction sector and then expanding it to the other sectors together with the Ministry of Labor and Work in Finland. Then in the industrial data side, we have the platform of trust, which is our own subsidiary company. And here, this is related to the built environment. So basically, platform of trust is an aggregator and data harmonizer for a lot of complex data that the buildings are collecting and what all the parties serving these building owners need to make better decisions regarding the buildings. And that will help to minimize the costs, minimize the electricity consumption, and so on. So we are speaking about data harmonizer, data aggregator platform that standardize the data for the partners and players in the ecosystems so that the actual building owners can make better decisions based on the data. And that data is quite fragmented, as people who have been dealing with the industry know. So this is something that we have been doing for several years now. Then the My Data, which is my business unit, we have been heading and starting it since 2017. And here we are focusing on the other side of the data. Here we are not storing the data, we are managing the identity of a person, the access management to the data, and we are basically using the GDPR permissions, the 6 types of reasons of accessing the data in our operator platform, and making it so that we are offering open source component called Access Gateway, which is also essential part of the MIM4, to enable the connectivity between the data consumer and data provider. And when I was having my previous session, someone was asking that, is this kind of too centralized model? Well, when I'm speaking about My Data Operator, first of all, we are taking the European way. So we are not acting as a data vault, we are acting as a data connector, like teleoperator. They are connecting parties, and then there are competing data teleoperators. There will be competing My Data operators. And our job is to make it so that the parties can use the data and they can trust that the data that has been used is real and from the party, that the party has actually right to provide the data, and then there is no need for point-to-point agreements, and then we respect the point of view of person who is in charge of enabling the access to the data. And this is like I would say teleoperator kind of an approach, but for data without storing the data, and by making it so that we are respecting the human's angle and human point of view, and their reasoning for the access is coming from the GDPR. Now, getting a little bit more practical point of view, we have been closely working with OASK and with the city of Helsinki to initiate the MIM4 and get it to more concrete. And basically, we created a draft version of the MIM4 specification, as well open source access gateway, which are now, I would say, initial building blocks for the MIM4. And this is the case that I was already presenting, subsidized daycare that we have been doing together with Helsinki. And this is a good example how MIM4 data socket could act as an enabler. And here, if you can see, there is tax authority as a data provider, a governmental unit, which is not part of the city. They are not willing to implement any new protocols or services on their own data sources. But with the access gateway, which could be part of the MIM4, which is open source already, we could actually have this data socket in front of their existing API without any changes. And then by using that and the operator allow access to the data, to the existing data sources without any programming changes. So that is the idea, what we already have in practice. And for that, we also have implemented the access rules, meaning that we are going towards the idea that we have multiple cities who need the same data. like the income data from the tax authority. But the tax authority do not want to have a different implementation per city. So our approach here has been that what if we can define a commonly agreed connector data socket that each and every one of these data operator or cities share, and then they can choose whatever technology they want to have on their own level, but they agree to share the way to access the data from the socket. So then we are not overloading the tax authority by forcing them to implement 3 different operator connectors, but providing one, and each and every one of these cities can share that. And then the cities may or may not have a different operators. They can choose. So Helsinki may use Vastuu Group's MyData Share. Oulu may have Vastuu Group or someone else. Turku may have someone else if they want to. So this is the idea that we promote collaboration, but also fair competition. And that is this decentralized thinking that something needs to be common, and MIM4 is one way to build the common nominators. And then on top of that, we can be one of these operators who share certain blocks of the infrastructure. And actually we provide that as an open source. So this is the highest end of our story that started from our business, the existing business, where we have seen the reality and the problems of data sharing. And out of that reality, we have learned that what needs to happen. We have more than 100 data sources already in our business. And by using those lessons, we have adapted that into the context of cities. And because we have seen that cities have similar problems. And now combining that with the legal structure as well, we can actually enable the data flow in a new manner. And hopefully that is the core part of the MIM4, what we are pushing forward together with the OASC. With the ecosystems, we see that there are a lot of parties who are doing similar work, and we need to participate to that work. So OASC is one of these parties who is thinking in a similar manner. But we have been part of the MyData since the birth of it, international data spaces as well. GaiaX, founding one of the actually first members in Finland, and so on. And the idea is that we should make collaboration when we see that there is a certain common denominator, like the data socket or something else, in between these organizations. And this is one thing what we want to promote. And this is what we have been promoting already in between the MyData and OASC, and in between the GaiaX and MyData and so on. So this is what we want to do. We want to be part of the ecosystem, and we want to promote the collaboration even with the associations and organizations who are forming the ecosystem. And then in Finland, we have been actively participating into different projects with the Sitra, Business Finland, KiraHub, and the universities. And of course, Findi, which is the Finnish Trust Network. I'm one of the founders of that and member of the cooperation board, where we are setting up an SSI model for identities and trusted data in Finland, but that network is also collaborating in the similar networks in Europe already. So this is other angle into our ecosystem thinking. We cannot do this alone. We are part of the bigger picture, and we want to actively promote the collaboration in between the parties in these ecosystems. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, Mika. Actually, there is a very interesting question in the Q&A, but I'm sure you have a really good answer.
Okay.
It's less of a question and more of a comment. And the comment is that it's a bit like a George Orwell enabler. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, I think that this kind of world is happening, that we are already in the world that someone is surveilling us. Now, it's more of being actively part of that and seeing that who are the parties, how we can actually distribute that so that there is a competition and we can choose that which providers are trusted and which are not. So rather than having a one party that has a surveillance over all of us, like Google, someone say, or Facebook. We are promoting a world where we believe that the residents and people and companies should have a freedom of choice of choosing their parties who they're dealing with. And obviously, when we are speaking about data, we have to trust someone. So we believe more on this kind of fragmented world where there is a competition and you have to earn your trust. But at the same time, if we are building a world where there is data, we need to have ethics, and the ethics should be the guideline so that we see that when we are building a world that is better and when we are entering into the world which is actually surveillance world. But the fragmentation is something that protects individuals and companies as well. This fragmentation raises the bar for better and higher ethical angle to the thinking. So that I believe on that kind of approach, but the reality is that data has to be shared to have better services, or otherwise we cannot have those. So it's a balancing act. Any other questions? And
yeah,
hopefully that answered.
That's a very interesting answer, because it does point to the fact that we have to take responsibility, that we cannot just stand by and let companies that have access to our data and let them do whatever they want. We have to fight for what we want. If it's privacy and mandate, that's something that we as ordinary citizens have to stand up for. But there is another question. How can small organizations like ours be part of the discussion and the ecosystem as well? They're an open data software provider. So do you have any
if you think about,
that?
First of all, the impact is not counted in euros when it comes to turnover. For example, Vastuu Group, we have only 20 million euros turnover, but still we are actively speaking with the European government. We are speaking with the Finnish government. We are speaking with the companies, big companies, listed companies. And the reason is that basically we have been able to provide something to the ecosystem that is valuable. And we have been actively promoting and accelerating the development of the ecosystem. And actually, the impact of our services for euros or for the companies is like 10 or 1,000 times bigger than our own turnover. So small companies can make the change if they have right partners collaborating together and they can actually deliver concrete results. And that's why I think that the OASC is a good example as well, My Data Global and other similar associations where collaboration can bring actual results. And the association is about building the trust, and then the companies can build something concrete and show that it's possible. So I believe that this is the way. That the other angle is that then you have to be bigger like Google or Facebook, and then you are do it alone. But this way is way better, because then we all have to respect each other's, and then we have to do it together. So that is leading to standards. So I believe that small companies like us, we can make the impact even smaller than Vastuu Group. And we have seen it already. The Finnish government is asking advice from us. European Union Parliament is sometimes asking comments from us and stuff like that. And we have only 120 employees. So how is that? There are way bigger companies who are not getting any kind of invitations from the government for any kind of advice. So it's about attitude and collaboration.
It's all about Finnish efficiency. I'm a bit, because I'm Finnish, I live in Finland. So, but one thing that I can advise anyone who's interested in becoming part of the landscape and making an impact is to contact us. Like Mika said, we have several working groups that will help you gain an entry point into the landscape, while at the same time doing concrete things that actually will help drive digitalization in Europe.
And participating to the work. I mean that in My Data Global, we have been actively participating to the white paper work, in the OASC, in the MIM4 work. And I encourage you to pick and choose 1, 2, or 3 organizations you can actually work with. It's not just a name on your website, but usually when I'm choosing that which parties we are working with, I'm also counting our time. That do we have time to collaborate, to do the work? And you should do that if you are a small company, because small company have only limited resources and you have to choose your friends who you are fighting together. So choose wisely and be active. And find 1, 2, or 3 based on your own interest and based on your own resources, and be an active member. And that is the way to get the influence and impact.
I would also encourage everyone, all of the participants here who have not yet done so, to please check out the Living in EU movement and sign it as a supporter, because that's one way of getting into the technical subgroup, for example, and influencing the discussion around the legal framework and policy. So I do encourage everyone to please check out the Living in EU movement. So thank you very much, Mika, for making time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And if someone has additional questions, please send me an email or call, and I will answer in detail and in depth if you have any additional questions or things you would like to know more about.
And we'll also be planning a lot more events with Vastuu Group in the next few months. So that's something we're all looking forward to. Thank you, Mika. We'll take a couple of minutes break before we go into our next Get Practical with session. Thank you so much, Mika.
Thank you. Bye-bye.